Ant-Man is directed by Peyton Reed and stars Michael Douglas, Paul Rudd, and Evangeline Lilly, and is the latest addition in the ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe. Douglas is Hank Pym, a genius who has developed the Pym particle and essentially developed technology which can reduce the space between atoms and shrink stuff and then make it bigger again. He has spent the rest of his career essentially hiding this technology from anyone because he is worried about what it could do in the wrong hands. To continue this fight, he now recruits Scott Lang, aka Rudd, who is he's a wannabe family man who's also somewhat of an electrical engineer, but he also just happens to be incredibly good at breaking into places and stealing shit, in his own words. It's this ability that makes Pym believe that he is the right man to become Ant-Man. Now, I'll be honest, I was really kind of worried with this because I really thought this was going to be the first of the Marvel films that I really didn't like. The signs were not looking good as far as I was concerned. Age of Ultron was disappointing to me. It was decent, but it was disappointing compared to the level that I was hyped for it. And I have to say, the trailer for this film, it just never excited me at all. That, and especially given the fact that Edgar Wright had left the project as director. He's still there as a writer, but he left as director. And I love Edgar Wright as a director. I think he's brilliant. All the signs for me were pointing to the film being a real proper disappointment. So typically, just when I think Marvel are really going to take their first misstep with a film, they've turned it around completely, and I really enjoyed this. It's great. The reason this film worked for me, anyway, is I think they got the balance right. This is an action comedy film, but it is equal parts, certainly, action and comedy. And they got both parts of it right. You have a lot of strong comedy writers behind this film. You have Edgar Wright, you have Joe Cornish, and it shows, that pedigree shows. There are times in this film I was absolutely laughing my head off. The comedy just worked. Paul Rudd's a talented comedy actor anyway, and when he's playing off Michael Douglas as a straight man, it worked. Them two work together, and it really worked in the film. The action scenes really delivered as well, and they were something I was worried about because I've not read the comics, and in the back of my mind, I always had it that how much threat realistically can a half-inch tall man actually pose? As it turns out, quite a lot actually. I mean, he's not going against like a world-ending threat here or anything, but at the level he is at, he is really quite effective. And given the obvious added element you've got of constantly shrinking, constantly going back to normal size, which is, by the way, filmed really well. They did that so excellently. Also, all the environments are changing constantly. You're going from tiny little model villages to full-size laboratories. It just adds that extra dynamic and makes a lot of fight scenes so much more dynamic and so much more fun than they would otherwise have been. It does have problems. Its main problem is the same problem a lot of the Marvel films are having. Again, like I said, I've not read the comics, but the baddie in this, I don't know if he is even in the comics, but the simple fact is, I don't know who he is. I don't care who he is at all. He's just a warm body in a suit, to be honest. He really is. And it's a problem a lot of the Marvel films have had. They focus so much on the heroes, which obviously they're going to, but the villains they just don't have any backstory. They're not fully fleshed out characters at all. And he's just someone to fight against. There were some other smaller niggles that I had. The relationship between Hank Pym and his daughter, they have a lot of sort of unresolved issues at the start of the film, and they are sorted out like that. And it just, come on. If it was that easy, you should have done it 20 years ago. And finally, seriously, did you have to make Hank Pym look quite so much like Colonel Bloody Sanders? Seriously. I mean, have they had a sponsorship offer with KFC or something? He's a bloody mirror image of him. This film, I think, is Marvel going back to just having some fun. They've done the serious films like Winter Soldier, etc., and the upcoming Civil War is obviously going to be serious. Ant-Man wouldn't have worked with that kind of tone. They had to go more light-hearted, they had to go funnier, and they just had to have more fun in general. And I think they hit the mark with it. Thank you for listening to my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And of course, feel free to like the video or subscribe.